Experts say younger generations, fueled in part by social media, are taking giant leaps into skincare, even getting procedures they might not need.
23 News reporter Sydney Stoffregan talks to members of the medical community who say certain products could set teens up for bigger problems later in life.
Part of what they're looking for is to, be beautiful and stay looking young as long as possible.
Fueled by social media's influence, younger generations dive into skincare treatments at a faster rate. While medical experts like Jocelyn Leonard agree establishing a good care routine early in life is important, many feel kids are exploring trends not suitable for their age.
You don't want these teenagers using retinols without SPF, but we all know statistically they're not likely to put the sunscreen on. So it's things like that that put them at risk. But I've had patients that have come in that have caused retinol burns with misuse of a product, and these are adults.
Landon Pryor of Pryor Health says his patients keep getting younger. He thinks it's great younger generations want to protect their skin as long as they are educated on which products to choose and how to use them.
Young people have healthy skin, youthful appearance, so whatever they do at an earlier age to maintain that appearance, I think the better that they're going to look as they eventually get older.
Leonard warns some products can leave abrasions, sunspots, and hyperpigmentation on a child's skin. She recommends starting with a simple care routine and leave the more drastic procedures for later in life.
I would recommend just face wash, a gentle moisturizer, oil-free would work best usually for teens, and an SPF. The key is doing something. It does not have to be super expensive.
Working for you in Rockford, Sydney Stoffregan, 23 News.
A recent study shows teen shoppers spent 33% more on cosmetics and 19% more on skincare in 2023 than the previous year.